I'm not currently a licensed physician, and even if I am when you watch this video, it's not medical advice, it's just informational and entertainment. You might find this very entertaining that yesterday, I can't remember if it was in the morning or at night. I think it was not last night, but the night before at night. But I can't remember if it was in the morning. I was in bed with my wife, and it was at night. It was in the morning. And the night before, I took insulin, and I said, oh, hold on, I'm going to go back to the kitchen and eat some bread just to be extra safe. And she was worried, and I had already drank glucose earlier in the night and eaten bread and food. But I said, okay, I'll drink some extra glucose just to be extra safe. And in the morning, I think, we started talking about why I take insulin. She thought I'm kind of like sick in the head to take insulin. And I explained to her all the reasons that I have in my why I take insulin video that you should check out. But I ended up saying something that's very significant. I said, because most people, like in our generation, well, first of all, we got to think about the fact that the way we eat constantly all the time and high sugar is not normal. It's not natural. Humans have never done it in human history. Even our parents' generation did not eat like this. So I told her, like our generation, most people, in my opinion, most people, I'm not talking about most athletes, not most health nuts, but most people in general in like the Western world, I can't speak for the Eastern world like Asia or Africa, most people in the Western world are going to be type 1 and type 2 diabetics when they're mid to old age. And you might be thinking, what, type 1 diabetics? How are they going to become type 1 diabetics? And you really think everyone's going to become a type 2 diabetic? How is it they're not going to become type 2 or type 1? No, they're going to become both. Here's why. Because they're eating way too much, way too often, with way too much sugar, which means they're producing way too much insulin, which is going to desensitize their receptors and make them type 2 diabetics. But keep in mind, they're making all that insulin. And beta cells, which make insulin, don't have infinite capacity. They have the capacity to meet humans' needs over the last hundreds of thousands of years, which did not include all the food and all the sugar that we eat today. So our beta cells actually can die, and often do die, or I should say they die off. Like, enough of them die off within a modern human's lifetime, given our modern diet, but actually we're speaking for the last generation, because we haven't seen what happens with my generation. We've seen what happens with people who are currently 60, 70, 80 years old, and they grew up eating much less often with much less sugar. And even they are having their beta cells die off in old age and becoming type 1 diabetics. So my generation, they grew up with tons of sugar and generally still eats lots of sugar and generally eats all the time, all day long. Like, so many people are just snacking all day long. But it's very likely that our beta cells are going to die off at the later end of mid-age. I don't know exactly when, but I don't think a lot of us are going to make it to 80 or 70 without type 1 diabetes. And type 2 will come along with that because as you're pumping out all that insulin, which is killing off your beta cells that produce insulin, your receptors are becoming very desensitized to it. So I told my wife, I would rather not become a type 1 diabetic. And she goes, well, if you take insulin, isn't that going to make it even worse? Like, then you're going to become even more of a type 2 diabetic? And I said, well, yeah, but that's why I also take days off eating. I take metformin some days, and I make sure not to take too much insulin. My number one goal with taking insulin is longevity and health, Number 2 is to get some bodybuilding benefits. But I'm not going to blast insulin every day for a long period of time trying to get bodybuilding benefits and ruin my insulin sensitivity. I'd much rather be insulin sensitive and not a type 2 diabetic than have slightly bigger muscles. So she's like, oh yeah, it really makes some sense. And because it does make sense. You take insulin oftentimes in an appropriate dose to help keep your beta cells alive longer, but so that you don't develop type 2 diabetes, which is insulin insensitivity. You make sure you take days off, you do fasting, you take metformin, take berberine. Now, exactly how much insulin you should take and exactly how much metformin, fasting, and so on you should do, I can't tell you. You have to figure that out for your body. Nobody can tell you. People can give rough estimates. I mean, I can come up with one right now. Oh, insulin half the time, fasting or metformin half the time. Yeah, it's a good rough estimate, but it's just a rough estimate. We are all very different. We are not lab rats. A lot of people that are in the scientific or medical community, they are ignorant to the fact or the consequences of the fact that most medical studies are done on animals, rats or mice, which are genetically identical. They get very nice results. Oh yeah, this much does this much does that. Of course, you're basically doing it on clones. But when you have a human population, it doesn't work that way. You cannot say, oh, you need this many milligrams per kilogram, and that many is too much, and this many is too little. You cannot say that. It is so ignorant when medical people think that there are certain dosages of drugs that do certain things for everybody. Some people literally will not respond at all to drugs. Some people will respond way too high. And most people are just somewhere very different in a spectrum. It's like men can drink way more alcohol than women. White people can drink, Europeans can drink way more alcohol than Asians. Or Native Americans, yeah, they can't handle their alcohol either. Not the topic of this video. Yeah. Medications, I can't think of a good medication that varies amongst ethnicity, but all medications vary amongst people because we are all very different from one another. So I hope you like this video, hope it benefits you. I think insulin is a very important anti-aging tool. I plan to use it for my whole life. I want to get some long-acting insulin. You know, that can be a little tricky because doctors are like, or as I like to call them, people who work as doctors, because they're not really doctors. They're just people who went to medical school, got a degree, and currently work as doctors, generally screwing up people's lives. But they don't get the whole thing about not getting type 1 or type 2 diabetes. They'll say, well, just be healthy. How come you need medications if you don't have it yet? Well, because I don't want to have it. Why do you need body armor if someone's not shooting at you right now? Well, because someone might be shooting at me later. Why do you need a gun to defend yourself if no one's robbing your house right now? Because someone's probably going to rob it later. It's good to be proactive. Don't wait for the oh, now I'm type 2 diabetes. Now I should start. No, do it now. Don't wait. But that's not medical advice because I'm not a licensed physician. If I did have my license, I could help you to be extra healthy by writing the prescriptions. But for now, I can only give you the information. Check out my other videos. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It costs you nothing and it can help me out. I am only human. I do need money to survive, and I hope to make money from this YouTube channel. That's the honest truth. I mean, not that I ever say something that's not honest truth, but yeah.